Hello and welcome to another episode of Excellent Sports Talk with Mark. I'm your host, Mark Bradley, and welcome back to another week of the show. I appreciate everybody who's coming by. And so, today we have another great show. As always, we're keeping up with the theme for Black History Month, and we're talking all things HBCU football. So we're going to go ahead and continue on with our topics as always. And so basically what we have on the show today, what's going on is, as always, we're going to talk about our classic rivalries. And so we're going to talk about the Florida Classic this week. And so we're going to go ahead and continue on with our classic. And we're going to go ahead and dive into that. And then our second topic is we're going to talk about the HBCU Great Spotlight each and every week. We're going to go ahead and talk about Michael Strahan. And everybody know Michael Strahan is a big personality, one of the best football players to play in the NFL for the New York Football Giants. So we're going to go ahead and discuss his career. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Celebration Bowl history. Now, the Celebration Bowl is one of the newer college football playoff bowl implications, but this is strictly for the Black colleges. And so we're basically going to talk about that and dive into a little bit of the history. It's a brief history, but it's a history in itself. So we're going to talk about that. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section, and we will go ahead and discuss that. As always, I love interacting with everybody. So if you guys want to talk about anything HBCU sports, by all means, please put it in the comment section. So let's begin our first topic, and that is the Florida Classic. Now, the Florida Classic is between two schools, Bethune-Cookman University and Florida A&M University. Now, both of these schools are very, very close to proximity, still kind of close. You know, Florida is a big state, right? But for these two teams, they're kind of close, a little bit close. So Bethune-Cookman is located in Daytona Beach, Florida, and Florida A&M University is located in Tallahassee. And so these two teams meet each and every year to basically find out who's the best team in the best Black college in Florida. And so this is a very fun rivalry. They meet up each and every year in Orlando, Florida. So basically, Bethune-Cookman doesn't have to travel as far as FAMU, since FAMU is like really in the top of Florida. And then you kind of meet right there in Orlando and have a game. And they play each and every year. They play each other very, very tightly each and every year, I should say. And so let's basically begin from the beginning. So in 1925 was the first year that this rivalry has started. So it seems like a lot of these Black college classic games started in 1925, because the Magic City Classic, as we discussed last year, started in 1925 as well. And so started in 1925. It was in Tallahassee, Florida. So they began the classics playing at their own schools. And so the first game, it was basically a blowout from Florida A&M University. The score was 23-0. And so Florida A&M starting off strong, getting the first win against their rival Bethune-Cookman. And then the second year, 1926, in Daytona Beach, where Bethune-Cookman is located, Bethune-Cookman was able to win 12-0. So they came back, did what they had to do, and then after that, it started a large wave of Florida A&M victories, a very large wave. So we're talking from 1930, and then the game. Let's start from here. From 1930 to 1932, Florida A&M has won. Then the game for about a long time, up until 1947, didn't have a game. And then in 1947, they started back, and Florida A&M was able to win. There was another 3 years where they didn't have the game up until 1950. And then after that, from 1953, for 2 years, from 1955, then it started to get a little bit more consistent right here. And it's from 1953 up until 1972, all victories for Florida A&M University. And we're talking about a lot of victories, guys. And we're talking about not close games at all. I think the closest game was in 1968, where the Florida A&M won 23-20. After that, we're talking about blowouts. Even here in 1960, Florida A&M won 97-0, guys. 97-0. Yes, I said it. 97-0. What in the world was going on in 1960? I have no idea, but look, 1960, that is absolutely crazy to think about. And so, thank goodness, finally, Bethune-Cookman was able to get a win in 1973, and actually won back-to-back years in 1973 and 1974. And then, Florida A&M and then Bethune-Cookman traded in 1975, where Florida A&M won 6-0 in 1976, Bethune-Cookman was able to win 34-0. And so continuing on, in 1997, Orlando, Florida finally became the home of the Florida Classic. For a while, they was playing in Tampa, Florida, but then they finally found a home in Orlando, Florida in 1997, and they finally started to get a little bit more consistent right there playing in Florida. But in more recent times, now Bethune-Cookman is starting to gain traction in this rivalry, and they're starting to win games. And so from 2011 up until now, 2019, Bethune-Cookman has won. They have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row. So now we're seeing a change in wins. I mean, for all those years between 1953 and 1972, Florida A&M dominated this rivalry. Now it's Bethune-Cookman's turn. And now they are winning games, and they are doing what they have to do to finally get some recognition in this rivalry. And I know for a fact last year, the game in 2 years ago now, in 2019, Bethune-Cookman won 31-27, and that was a big upset, because Florida A&M was by far the best team in the MEAC. They were still in the MEAC in 2019. It was by far the best team in that conference between them and North Carolina A&T. And Bethune-Cookman was not having the best of seasons. I think they was having like an average season, not doing much of anything. But, like I say each and every time, it doesn't matter when it comes down to rivalry games, because you can throw the history book out the window. You can just throw everything out the window and know it's going to be a great competitive game between two teams that doesn't want to lose and wants to have bragging rights for that year to tell people like, hey, well, look, we're the top school, we're the top black college in Florida, we're the top black college in Florida. So basically, now that was a big upset. That was a great game. First and foremost, I was able to watch the highlights of the game, and it was a good competitive game. It was a back and forth game. It was a heavyweight bout. Both of these teams played well. I think it came down to a couple of bad turnovers on Florida A&M side that really decided the game for Bethune-Cookman. But Look, each and every year, it's a good game, and it's enjoyable to watch. It's fun. It's fun to watch, and with the both of these bands, from Bethune-Cookman, I believe they're called the Marching Wildcats, and Florida A&M, I believe they're called the Marching 100. Both of these bands are some of the top in the lands. Like literally, they sound amazing. They sound amazing, and like I say, each and every week with these rivalries, man, it's in the football field, and it's halftime, because both of these bands, who are very well known, very very well known across the world, played in many different venues, like large venues at that as well. Many different movies as well. I mean, both of these bands wants to outshine each other by far. And so it's a big event. And of course, like before the game, it's a big celebration as far as them having like festivities, of course, before the game. And things of that nature. It's just like another festive atmosphere. Of course, with all these classics, they're all the same. All of them are festive activities. The band has a marching parade each and every year. It's just fun. It's fun. And I fully expect for this rivalry to continue in the spring. And it's going to be quite different, of course, with both these teams joining the SWAC conference, moving from the MEAC to the SWAC, which is a big deal for both of these conferences. Because just to be truthfully honest with you, I think it's going to be a lot more competitive as far as the games in general, because I think it's a little bit more competitive in the SWAC. Because we still have to they still have to deal with Alcorn State, who's been the cream of the crop of that division for a long time, for a very long time. Then you have to deal with Southern and Grambling, being there in that SWAC conference. And now you bring in Florida A&M, you bring in Bethune-Cookman. So both of these teams, it could decide to who's going to win their division. It could come down to that game, because now with a little bit more competition, and now that they're going to be in divisions, it's going to be very fun to watch. And now seeing these teams, playing in the SWAC, and now because in the MEAC, they don't, whoever's number one is basically representing the MEAC conference in the Celebration Bowl, which we're going to get into a little bit later. But now they have divisions, so it's going to be very interesting for both of these schools to really make that adjustment into finally getting into divisional play. And now you never know. That game, that Florida Classic game, could determine who's going to represent that side of their division to play against the other division, and see who can get to the Celebration Bowl. Because we've seen it many times in the SWAC. A lot of times the Bayou Classic is the one game that's going to represent their division. And it usually comes down to Southern and Grambling, and whoever wins that game. I remember last year, in 2019, that whoever won the Bayou Classic went to play Alcorn State. Now Alcorn State was so dominant that they did what they had to do, but these classic games, they mean something a lot, and we really have to pay attention to that when it in spring, when they officially have that full season of football. And it's going to be exciting to see how this is going to continue, and we're going to see if Bethune-Cookman can keep up with their pace. So let's look at the series before we move on. So Florida A&M right now has a very comfortable lead in the series. They have won 50 games to 24 to Bethune-Cookman's 24, and one tie. And that one tie came into the third game in 1929. It was a 6-6 tie. But look, Bethune-Cookman is gaining traction in the series, And if they can keep this up, man, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the next maybe 10 years, 20 years. If they can catch up, it's going to be fun to see how things work out. So anyway, that's going to be the end of the first topic. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please, by all means, put them in the comment section and I will get to you. And so let's go ahead and continue on with our next topic. And that is our HBCU Great Spotlight, which is Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan, if you guys know, Michael Strahan was one of the most dominant defensive linemen to ever play the game. He played for the New York Giants. He was a dominant force his whole career. With the exception of his rookie year. Didn't play much his rookie year, but from his rookie year on, he had a great career for him. And so let's go ahead and dive into his life a little bit. So Michael Strahan was born in Houston, Texas. He went to Westbury, did not play football until his senior year in high school, which is very interesting. So, he was a late bloomer in football, which is the case for a lot of people. A lot of people don't really play much football until, they really know that they might have a chance of getting into football. So basically, Michael Strahan played his 1 year in high school and was good enough to receive a scholarship to Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. And so he was there in Texas Southern. And it says he followed his footsteps from his Uncle Art, who also played at Texas Southern University. And they said he was so dominant that he has to draw double teams to just stop Michael Strahan. And anytime you can draw a double team anybody in the defensive line, that's great. Because not only does that mean you're a dominant defensive lineman where they can't stop you one-on-one, you get double team, you can definitely help your other teammates get to the quarterback because they're going to be in a one-on-one situation. And just thinks if you bring an all-out blitz trying to just stop one guy and Michael Strahan, oh my gosh, I know that's heaven for linebackers, and maybe even if you bring a safety blitz. That's heaven to them. And so Michael Strahan was, bringing in these double teams, just being dominant. So let's talk about his junior year. His junior year was so dominant. He was just he was named like the top defensive lineman. And matter of fact, the top defensive player. According to a lot of big people who are really looking at these players, and so let's look at his junior year, I believe. So he recorded 68 tackles with the school record 19 sacks, and which totaled 32 tackles in together. And he had 142 yards in losses. That is a lot for a defensive lineman. And so in 1992, he was named first team All SWAC. He was the SWAC Player of the Year. And this was 2 consecutive seasons. Let me not do that. He was also named the Black College Defensive Player of the Year as a junior in 1991. And so he led the SWAC with 14 sacks and a career sacks. And for a career, his whole career there at Texas Southern, he was able to accumulate 41 sacks in his whole career at Texas Southern, which is a record, a school record at Texas Southern. That is something to remember. They're being so dominant there at Texas Southern, bringing in all these double teams, just being too dominant for the whole SWAC division. And it was hard to stop Michael Strahan even in college. And just imagine when he went pro, if you would have seen what he has done. It was just so amazing. And so let's look at his professional career. All right. So being at Texas Southern, setting all types of records, he was drafted in the second round, pick number 40 to the New York Giants. And look, that is a big steal for the New York Giants to go ahead and get him in the second round with the 40th pick. That is a big that's a big accomplishment. And whoever was a scouting agent at for the New York Giants at the time gets a big pay raise. He should have gotten a big pay raise because he had a Hall of Famer just right there in the second round. So let's talk about his his career. So in the beginning of his career, his rookie year, he only played 6 games. Had some injuries. You know, injuries always come into play. You know, you have to be healthy. And so early in his career, you know, he didn't play, but moving on into like 1997, he recorded 14 sacks in 1997, and he was voted to his first Pro Bowl and also his first All-Pro team by the Associated Press. And in 1998, he upped his sacks to 15, where he was voted to his second Pro Bowl and second All-Pro team. And so moving on to his middle part of his career, in 2000, the Giants, they made it to the playoffs, had a strong playoff run. Actually made it to the Super Bowl. And they defeated Minnesota in the NFC Championship game 41-0. That was a very strong defense. But unfortunately, they ran into a strong Baltimore team. That defense for Baltimore was probably one of the best defenses ever. Like, when I mean ever, I truly mean that. That Baltimore defense was just so strong. You know, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, all them guys. Oh my gosh, this just monsters. So unfortunately, they did lose 34-7. And look, you know, it was tough for them. But then in 2001, the next year, he came back, had the best year of his career by far, easily. And he set the single season sack records with 22.5 sacks. And that is hard to do with 22 sacks for a year. I mean, just dominant all year. Michael Strahan was just so dominant all year, guys. And you know, he was able to get his sack, his final sack, recorded sack against Brett Favre, a Hall of Fame quarterback. And look, Michael Strahan was so emotional. I remember seeing the clip. He was so emotional. He was so happy. Brett Favre gave him some love. Everybody was just so happy for Michael Strahan. And so it was just so good. And so let's continue on to you know, his final his kind of later in his career. In 2006, he was 14 years into the game. And so finally, after his whole career just getting to the playoffs, couldn't make it over the hump, he finally finally made it over the hump. And so he was able to finally win the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, who was considered one of the best teams in the whole NFL. We're talking about undefeated New England Patriots, who was Tom Brady was just a machine that year. Randy Moss was just all over the place. That whole team was just so dominant, going undefeated all the way up until the Super Bowl. But I remember watching that Super Bowl. That defensive line was going nuts the whole game. He was making Tom Brady so uncomfortable in the pocket. Michael Strahan, I believe Jason Pierre-Paul. I want to say Jason Pierre-Paul was like really young in his career. He just won the Super Bowl not too long ago. And then O.C. Umeara, I remember him. It was just like he was just making Tom Brady so uncomfortable where he could not do anything that game. And then the game was so like defensive minded. It came down to one play, I believe, by David Tyree, where he caught that one pass on his helmet, and then we never heard from him again, which was pretty crazy. Like we never heard from him again. But that one play was basically like that put them over the hump, and they ended up getting a field goal to win the game, 17-14. But all that time, Michael Strahan, late into his career, finally won that Super Bowl. It's just solidified his Hall of Fame career. And so, it was just so good for him. And look, Michael Strahan, even after his retirement, made something of himself, being an excellent sportscaster and also a show host, which was a very popular show at that. So Michael Strahan has done a lot for himself on the field and off the field, and after retirement has made a name for himself. And Michael Strahan, coming from small Texas Southern, made something from himself. And like I say each and every week, you will be surprised how many Hall of Famers are in there from black colleges. It is a lot. And so you never know with all this talent coming out of an HBCU. And just thinking about it now, I think Darius Leonard is one of the best HBCUs players that are playing in the NFL right now, and is one of the most dominant linebackers playing in the NFL right now, coming from South Carolina State University. Look, these guys are talented. Now, of course, they come from a small school, and of course, you want to go to all those bigger schools and find those stars. But there is some big time talent coming out of these HBCUs. Now, I also forgot Tariq Cohen, who played for Chicago. Unfortunately, he messed up his knee this year. But, his rookie year, Tariq Cohen was so dominant. It was amazing. And he just recently received a fat contract from the Chicago Bears. So look, all I'm saying is you come from these small HBCU schools. Looking at all this talent, it's just as good as these big Power 5 schools. So I just want to get that out there. So Michael Strahan, one of the top players in the NFL, came from a small Texas Southern school, made a name for himself. Amazing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. It's going to be real quick. And we're going to watch Michael Strahan YouTube video of his acceptance of his just little profile for his Black College Hall of Fame. Black College Hall of Fame. He is in the Black College Hall of Fame. So let's go ahead and look at that. So I am going to share my screen, and I am going to bring up the video, and I'll be back. It's a quick minute video. So let's get into it.
Michael Strahan was born on November 21, 1971 in Houston, Texas. Strahan did not begin to play high school football in the U.S. until his senior year at Westbury High School in Houston, Texas. This one season of football was enough for him to get a scholarship offer from Texas Southern University. As a junior in 1991, Strahan led the Southwestern Athletic Conference with 14 and a half sacks and was named the Division I AA Defensive Player of the Year. In 1992, he was named First Team All-SWAC and the Player of the Year for the second consecutive season. He was also named Black College Defensive Player of the Year and was a Black College Football All-America by the Sheridan Broadcast Network, the Eddie Hayes Black College Sports Report, and the Associated Press. Strahan was drafted by the New York Giants in the second round of the 1993 NFL Draft with the 40th overall pick. In 2001, Strahan set the NFL record for sacks in a single season with 22.5, the highest tally since it was made an official statistic in 1982. He retired as a 7-time Pro Bowl selection, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, AP NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time NFC Defensive Player of the Year, NFL Alumni Pass Rusher of the Year, New York Giants Ring of Honor, and Super Bowl champion. Michael Strahan, Black College Football Hall of Fame Class of 2014.
And so there it is. It's just a basic, brief history of what Michael Strahan has done as a college football Hall of Famer and a Black College Football Hall of Famer. That's just a brief history of just many of his accomplishments as a player. And so Michael Strahan will forever go down as one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. And like I said, coming from a small school like Texas Southern, that's a big accomplishment for what he has done. So let's continue on to our next topic. And like each and every time, if you guys have any questions or comments about any of the topics we're discussing right now, by all means, please put it in the comment section below. We'll definitely go ahead and talk about that. And like I said, I'll interact with everybody, and I hope everybody is enjoying this theme as far as HBCU football. Well, not football, just HBCU sports in general. I just enjoy HBCU sports. It's always fun. Now, let's be honest. There's always a big game, in these Power 5 conferences, and I always try to look out for a lot of the big Power 5 conferences. And, if there's a big rivalry game, I always try to watch it, like USC, UCLA, I always enjoy, that rivalry. But to be honest, if there's any other Black college football rivalry that's going on during a UCLA and USC game, I'm watching the Black college football rivalry because it's just so much culturally and just everything. It's just I love it. I don't know what it is, but I just enjoy it wholeheartedly. And so basically that's something I just look forward to. It's been a long time since we had Black college sports for almost a year now. And I'm just so excited to watch Black college sports that's going to be happening actually next week. Our first Black college football is happening next week because Jackson State is playing a smaller school. I do not know the name of the school to save my life. I'm sorry, but they're having their first Black football game. Jackson State. We're talking about prime time. Deion Sanders, his first game as Jackson State head coach. It's exciting to see what's in store for the new Jackson State. And then next year, they're just going to bring in one of the best recruiting classes ever in HBCU football. And it's going to be exciting to see what's going to happen in spring. But right now in the fall, it's starting next week, I believe. Or you know what? I'm actually going to look it up right now. So, I believe, I don't know if it's It's coming up actually on Sunday. Sunday is the first game against Edward Waters at 11 a.m. I believe it is on TV. I could be wrong. Matter of fact, it's on ESPN3. So if you guys have ESPN3, you can go ahead and watch the game. So it's exciting to see what Deion Sanders does for his first game. I know it's going to be interesting to watch prime time on the sidelines because he has coached high school football and he also coached like the All-American game. And Deion Sanders is one of those guys who's a big motivator. He's one of those very talkative guys who, he's been like that his whole career, and things hasn't changed since he became a coach. And his son, I believe, is going to possibly be the starting quarterback. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to definitely watch the game on Sunday and give you definitely the details on the game on next Friday. So I'm excited. I'm excited to watch the game, and so let's get our first taste of black football, college football, and I'm excited. But anyway, so we went off topic a little bit. Let's get into the last topic, and we're going to talk about the Celebration Bowl history. Now, the Celebration Bowl is basically the top two teams from the MEAC conference and the SWAC conference. The top two teams, they meet in the Celebration Bowl. And like I said, with the MEAC conference, if you're number one, you're basically in. With the SWAC, it's a little bit tougher because they have divisions. So whoever's the top two in the division, they'll play an extra game, and whoever wins that game goes into the Celebration Bowl. Now, the Celebration Bowl first game was in 2015. It has been played in the Georgia Dome, for its existence. And so, basically, in 2015, the first two teams represented in the Celebration Bowl in 2015 was North Carolina A&T and Alcorn State University. And it was a very good game. It was a 41 to 34 game won by North Carolina A&T. And this is the last year of Tariq's Cohen college career, and he went absolutely nuts. He had 22 carries for 295 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is legit craziness. Guys. For Tariq Cohen to do that, his final game of his career, later on was drafted by the Chicago Bears. That is nuts. That is nuts to put up that stat line. But Tariq Cohen was like that his whole college career. Like, Tariq Cohen was one of the most dominant college football rushers ever. I wouldn't say he was like a Walter Payton, because Walter Payton is Walter Payton. But I believe he's about the second best HBCU running backs that I was able to see him play. I never seen Walter Payton play, so of course I really can't talk much about Walter Payton. But when I was watching Tariq Cohen play, Tariq Cohen, nobody could stop that dude. And he's such a small guy, it's hard to just even to tackle him. He was a tough dude. To get on the ground. He was so short and fast, and it was just hard to stop that man. But him in the Celebration Bowl in the first year of his existence was completely wild. So that was a good game. I mean, even with him going nuts, that was a good game. That was a very good game. So let's continue on to the next year. So, like I said, 2015, the first game. So let's move on to 2016. So 2016, the Georgia Dome, it was Grambling State versus North Carolina Central. And so it was a very, very, very low scoring defensive game. Grambling State was able to win 10-9. Very, very defensive heavy game. But Grambling State, first year in the Celebration Bowl, of course, North Carolina Central, who had very good football seasons, the past couple of years. They could be the cream of the crop next year, but it's going to be hard because they still have to get through South Carolina State, who hasn't made it to the Celebration Bowl yet, which is very interesting to really think about. But they can possibly get into it, okay? So very, very short, very defensive-minded game. North Carolina Central, and Grambling State. So let's move on to 2017. Grambling State was able to get back into the Celebration Bowl against North Carolina A&T. And like I said, they made it in 2015. So North Carolina A&T, this is his second year making it to the Celebration Bowl. And North Carolina A&T was able to win 21-14. And it was a good game. It was a good strong game. Grambling State's quarterback had a great game. His name is Devontae Kincaid. He had 19 completions, 36 yards, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Had a good game. Had a very good game. And so we have to look at North Carolina Central's running back. His name is Marquell Cartwright. Had a very decent game. 20 carries, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown. So, this is a very good game. Nobody scored in the first quarter. In the second quarter, it was 7-7 at halftime. And then North Carolina Central was able to score in the third and the fourth quarter. It was able to hold Grambling State to only 7 points in the second half. So it was a very good back and forth game, very strong game. And North Carolina A&T was able to get their second Celebration Bowl in 3 years. So they was the cream of the crop after 2017. But let's move on to 2018. And this is where things get interesting. So North Carolina A&T right back into the Celebration Bowl. So North Carolina A&T has represented the Celebration Bowl a lot of times. The MEAC has definitely been a strong representative of the Celebration Bowl. They play Alcorn State, and Alcorn State, for some reason, can never get over the hump, guys. Can never get over the hump. So the game was in 2018 was 24-28. A very close game, guys. Very close game. And so let's look at some of the stats. So North Carolina A&T quarterback's name is Lamar Reynard, had a great game. Had 18 completions for 30 yards, 292 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns and one interception. And then the rushing yards wasn't too much rushing, but another strong running back coming out of North Carolina A&T. His name is Jermaine Martin. Didn't have the best year, but remember his name because this guy is a strong guy. And let's look over to Alcorn State. Alcorn State running attack was so strong that game. Deshaun Waller, Alcorn State's running back, had 19 carries for 167 yards and didn't get a touchdown, but still a strong game. And also Noah Johnson, the backup, also had 14 carries, 120 yards. So it was a very good game for the running backs, but unfortunately, they couldn't get over the hump of North Carolina A&T being such a dominant team. They have been for over the past 3 years. So in 2000 from 2017 to 2018, North Carolina has won the Celebration Bowl. And in 2019, guess who's back in it? You guessed it. North Carolina A&T is right back in it against Alcorn State, a rematch for 2018. But this was not pretty at all. North Carolina A&T won 64-44. So they have won let me see, 2, 3, 4. They have won 4 of these celebration bowls. So it's got a lot of catching up to do, especially the swag. The swag has a lot of catching up to do. I think they will now that, teams has decided to move over to the swag division. So, you have to really look at that. So let's talk about the game. North Carolina A&T's quarterback went nuts. I mean, completely nuts. His name is Khalil Carter. So let's talk about this. He had 18 completions for 30 attempts, 364 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So we really have to give his credit where his credit was due. Such a good game from him. And remember that name we talked about, the running back, Jermaine Martin, had 15 carries, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was such a strong running back. It was amazing. And look, Alcorn, anytime you score 44 points, you're expected to win the game. Unfortunately, defense was non-existent, but you still had a great showing from the quarterback. His name is Felix Harper from Alcorn State. 25 completions, 42 yards, 341 yards in total, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. That's still a strong game. Unfortunately, your defense didn't give you no help at all, but, unfortunately, it is what it is. It is what it is for Alcorn State. But North Carolina A&T has represented the Celebration Bowl, has won majority of the Celebration Bowls. So let's talk about let's move on. Let's move on to the 2021 season. I'm pretty sure they're going to have a Celebration Bowl. I hope they do. But let's talk about it. We're going to see who's going to probably represent each. Let's talk about who's going to represent maybe. Now, personally, I believe since North Carolina A&T is not going to be in the MEAC anymore, they're moving on to the Big South. So I don't know if they're going to be in the Celebration Bowl anymore because, unfortunately, the Big South is not historically black college division. So I don't know what that's about. And Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M is leaving for the SWAC. So basically, that leaves Delaware State, Howard, North Carolina Central, Morgan State, Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, and South Carolina State University. Now, to be honest with you, I think South Carolina State is going to go ahead and represent the MEAC this year for the Celebration Bowl. And the only reason why I say that is because I think they're the front runners now that Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman are out the picture. Because if Florida A&M was still in the MEAC, I believe Florida A&M would have represented for the MEAC. But here's an interesting stat. Let me backtrack, okay? Florida A&M won the MEAC division last year, but unfortunately, they was ineligible to play. I don't know what the reason was for them being ineligible to play, but that's the reason why North Carolina A&T was in the Celebration Bowl last year. It should have been Florida. It should have been Florida A&M. They had the best record, but unfortunately, they couldn't represent them. But now I think South Carolina, I think this is their year to lose. And they have to go out there and they have to beat up on these teams that are not that good. Like, North Carolina Central hasn't been good. I think they're more of a basketball school. Morgan State hasn't been good in football for a while. North Carolina Maryland Eastern Shore. I forgot to mention them. They're not exactly a good football school. Howard football hasn't been good in a long time. So if I'm thinking anybody's going to give them competition, it might be in North Carolina Central. But I don't think that they're going to have the firepower to beat a South Carolina State University team, because they was good last year, but unfortunately, North Carolina A&T and Florida A&M was just a little bit better. But now that they are all out the picture, it's the South Carolina State's division to lose. They have to do what they have to do. They can't lose to, teams that they should not be losing to. And so I think that's like the whole division. I think they have to represent the MEAC conference in the Celebration Bowl next year. So let's go ahead and look at the SWAC division. And so I believe who's going to represent the SWAC division next year in the Celebration Bowl, I believe it's going to be Alcorn State. I think Alcorn State is going to go ahead and continue their dominance in the SWAC, and hopefully that they can finally get over this two-game skid, get that monkey off their back, and win and win in the Celebration Bowl. I believe that they're going to go ahead and win the division. Which is a strong division. Do not get me wrong. It's a very strong division, okay? But Jackson State might have something to say about it. Let's not count out Jackson State, guys. They're bringing in some of the best, some of the top recruits. They have a lot of transfers from Power 5 conferences, excuse me, coming into their division. And so you really have to look out for what Jackson State is going to do. So I think Jackson State is going to be a strong representative. And so I think Alcorn State is still going to do what they do. They're still a strong team. But I believe it's going to come down to Jackson State and Alcorn State in the East. And then in the west side of the West division, I think it's going to be between either Grambling State or Southern. And I'm going to give the slight nod to Southern representing the West. And then, like I said, those two teams have to play against each other in the championship game. And I think Alcorn State is going to win. So I think at the end, it's going to be Alcorn State in the Celebration Bowl and South Carolina State University. And I believe Alcorn State is finally going to get that Celebration Bowl win and get that monkey off their back and finally win. They was losing against those strong North Carolina A&T teams, man. Those guys were strong. You can just tell the whole year that they were going to represent that conference. They were great. They were really good. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But I believe Alcorn and South Carolina State's, and then Alcorn's going to get the win. And there we go. So the Celebration Bowl, like I said, still very early in the Celebration Bowl history. But I know it's going to make a lot more history as it continues on going into the next couple of seasons. Unfortunately, they did not have one in 2020, but of course, it was COVID-related stuff, and they didn't have a season last year. But, now they are, and basically it's like some bonus football. The NFL is over, college is over. This is our little bonus football that we're going to get spoiled with, which is going to be Black college football. And I believe they're going to be represented very well this year as far as TV time, because, look, everybody loves football. All of us, all America, loves football. Let's be honest with you. And anytime you can get some bonus football, either it's college or professionals, it's going to be on TV. And look, the SWAC football is going to be represented on TV. By far, it's going to be fun to watch. And I'm excited. So let's watch a quick brief video of the 2019 Celebration Bowl between Alcorn State and North Carolina A&T. And so let's watch the game. It was very fun. So let's go ahead and get that going. So let's do it right now. Oops. Here we go.
The reason I love using
and we got to add, which is funny,
easy.
is from StreamYards, and I'm using StreamYards right now. But here we go.
It all comes down to this. Celebration Bowl 5. No more tweets, no more talking. We got Alcorn versus A&T, and both teams were teed, ready to brawl for it all in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And the Braves and the Aggies blew the roof off this mother like Parliament. How many points they score? A lot. First quarter, Carter the Bell over the shoulder like little Michael Jackson in the studio with Barry Gordon. He topped it off with the LeBron chalk toss. That's a whole lot of GOAT business right there. Alcorn right back though. Felix Harper to Chris Blair. 36 yards and it's 10-7 Braves. But don't blink. Zachary Leslie gets a 56-yard score. Then Corey Banks gets one from 4 yards out, and it's 24-10, Aggies at the break. And this halftime really wasn't a break at all. The sounds of dynamite and the blue and gold marching machine went crazy. Now, the third quarter had so many points, I'm going to just roll them off for you. Jermaine Martin, 75 yards through the tunnel, 31-10. Felix Harper, 6-yard run, 31-17. Khalil Carter to Ron Hunt, 38-17. Deshaun Waller, 23 yards. Elijah Bell gets another 20-yard score, plus a step over. That makes it 45-24, and the Aggie fans done brought their own championship belt to the Aggie. All in all, it was 49 points scored in the third quarter alone, and it's 52-31 going into the fourth. This one was a final scene of Scarface-type shootout. Alcorn was able to cut the deficit down to 14 points in the fourth, but them dogs was just too much. A&T wins 64-44, most points in Celebration Bowl history, an Aggie three-peat, and if you didn't know, you can't spell Atlanta without A-N-T.
You can't spell Atlanta without A&T.
You can't spell Atlanta without
when my boys come back next year,
you know what's up. You can't spell Atlanta without A&T.
I said last year. You said it last year. It's the Aggie Bowl. Ain't no celebration no more.
You heard what he said now.
This ain't no fluke anymore.
It ain't a fluke. That's 3 in a row. Yes, sir.
Repeat.
Yes, sir.
Third in a row. Go ahead. I got 5 here, baby. I got about 6 on there.
How many?
How many? You got 8. I got 6 on. How many? I got 6. How many? I got 8. I got 6. I feel like Jordan.
Hey, no cap. No cap. We're supposed to be here, best team in HBCU football, and we showed that today. It's a blessing to be here. Watching all my guys that came off of me, and turn around and look at them, man. They're happy, and Aggie pride's happy. The line played great today. We just had to play our best game all year, so I'm glad to be part of it. The dream come true. You know what I'm saying? Everybody dreams of playing a championship and being able to play in 3 in a row and winning all 3. Man, that's a blessing. Woo,
Oh, you know how we do the HBCU game,
up, man. Goes up. You know what time it is.
Hey, came out here, did it again. After doing it again, after doing it again. That's a 3-peat.
And there you go. That's basically the 2019 Celebration Bowl. And so, you know, it was well represented, man. It was a good game. It was a very high scoring game. And that's basically what you get from the Celebration Bowl each and every year. Just some excitement between Black college football. And it's just so fun to watch. But basically, that's going to be the end of the show. I want to thank everybody for coming out each and every week to the show, and I want to thank everybody that shared, liked the video. Just thank you so much for everything. And so we will be here next week to talk about more Black college football, and well, not Black college football, just Black sports in general, HBCU sports. And I hope you guys come back next week, and we'll have some more fun. So until next time, peace.